Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Benoon here with Israeli News Live. Breaking news. I do have an inside intel major in the United States Air Force there that has revealed some interesting information to me. The United States is going to strike Iran within the next 48 hours. That is coming. There is a meeting going on in the Pentagon as we speak right now, and this is coming down. It is going to be an attack. Donald Trump is already taken to his own social media account saying that he has warned them. He said he knows exactly where the Ayatollah Khomeini is inside of Iran. He said he does not plan on taking him out as of yet, and as long as they make a deal. But they're talking about using weapons. I've also heard that there would be tactical nukes that would be used for bunker busting that will be coming in. We know that there are several U.S. Navy, or excuse me, U.S. Navy is shifting assets towards the Middle East. Also, the U.S. Um, uh, is deployments headed towards the Middle East. And we are also knowing that the United States is planning on using weapons never seen before. Deborah Tavares has shared with me that she believes that it is the tungsten rods that are going to be used. And this kinetic energy can only have some of the most devastating effects that you could ever imagine. These rods were developed back in the 50s before we ever, or the theory of it was, before we ever actually invented them and used them. Tungsten, by the way, the tungsten comes from a word of a type of metal. It is a metal that can withstand the most powerful or the most highly heat. I think it's like 62,000 degrees Fahrenheit it can withstand. And yet it is the strongest metal there is as well. Well, as you see on the screen, it is equivalent to the yield of a small tactical nuclear weapon. There are some that believe it can be done even higher. The original idea was to develop it. It was 20 foot, or excuse me, yeah, 20-foot long rods, the size of a telephone pole. And of course, the weights are in the tons because of it being steel. And these are dropped from space. They can withstand the temperatures entering into the atmosphere of the Earth. And it is believed that the U.S. is going to use tungsten rods on this attack. I know that sometime back, one guy I know that his family is connected to the Mossad claimed that they were the ones that hit Beirut. And it is believed that that was a tungsten rod that was used. Now, he claimed that it was a different type of energy rod that they used. As you can see just from these, I guess, movie scenes here of what the damage that can be done. But the sad thing is that Israel right now, and this is another one that came to me as well. Israel is being reported in one of the Israeli news media outlets there, or by Israeli journalists, that they have been told not to report military targets that Iran has done, that they are only to be reporting on civilian casualties because Israel has seen that the world has reacted heavily towards the casualties of the people of Gaza, the genocide that is happening in Gaza as we speak, a city of a couple of million people that has been totally leveled to the ground, and yet no outcry, no world outcry for the people of Gaza. It's very sad the things that we're seeing here, and yet being perpetrated by those that are supportive of the Zionist regime in Israel. And I listen, we're not against Jewish people wanting to live in Israel, wanting to have that as their home, but we're just against the oppression that is being done of the Palestinian people. This is what is clearly not right. It is totally wrong to do that. Even former Israeli prime ministers, two of them, Olmert is one of them that has come out that have condemned Netanyahu's aggression against the Palestinians and what is happening there. But oddly enough, well, should say oddly enough, it is not unusual though. Even though 50% or more of Israelis are against Netanyahu and their judicial reforms, once the terrorist attack of Hamas happened on October the 7th, it galvanized Israelis behind the flag and their willingness to go after Hamas. Of course, none of them ever paying attention to people like Jonathan Pollard, who was the spy, U.S. spy that stole all that nuclear material and gave it to Israel. That was totally ignored. And yet, Jonathan Pollard himself even says that Israel ordered stand down of helicopter pilots that he knew personally in order to be able to let Hamas carry out this attack because they wanted a pretext to justify a war on Gaza, to level it, to take over this area. They're also beginning to do more so in the West Bank as well. And then this attack on Iran. And again, keep in mind, Trump is supposedly having negotiations with the Iranians there, and Israel targets the two leading negotiators in there and kills them. It's just bewildering to me. I wish instead of Trump caving in to this pressure to go to war against Iran, I wish he'd have remembered his statement here from 2019, where he says the United States has spent $8 trillion fighting and policing the Middle East. Thousands of our great soldiers have died or been badly wounded. Millions of people have died on the other side. Going into the Middle East is the worst decision ever made. And of course, what people are not considering right now, probably one of the biggest concerns that I see on the horizon, is that Russia and China, they depend on Iran as a focal point of balance in the Middle East, because Israel has slowly but surely been overthrowing every single country in there. We know that Gregory Sachs has clearly said that. In fact, let me just pull up a comment from Gregory Sachs here. He was on Tucker Carlson. And by the way, as you can see, George Galloway said Trump has politically murdered Musk, Carlson, and Gabbard in a matter of days. Who's next? I expect Gregory Sachs is going to be on that target list as well for too long because of his comments openly expressing what Israel has done, being behind even Clark said they were going to take down 7 nations in 5 years, and and so now we see it. We see it on a regular basis. What is actually happening. Israel is doing it. He said that it was Netanyahu who was taking out of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. So now let's listen. I didn't catch this one. Let me see what he says right here.
Ukraine. What was Putin's intention in the war? Not the propaganda that's written about this. Oh, that they failed and he was going to take over Ukraine. The idea was to keep NATO, and what is NATO? It's the United States, off of Russia's border. No more, no less. When the Soviet Union ended in 1991, and an agreement was made that NATO will not move 1 inch eastward. Now, what happened after 1991, the United States decided there would be no end to eastward enlargement of NATO. And the decision was taken formally in 1994 when President Clinton signed off on NATO enlargement to the east, all the way to Ukraine and into Georgia. So the NATO enlargement, as you know, started in 1999.
That, of course, is a different subject matter, but nonetheless, it is very relevant because that's going to expand as well. It is definitely going to expand. Let's see what he says here with Piers Morgan.
Rather than perhaps the stark reality of the barbarism with which he's executed this war.
Yeah, maybe because I know too much about the United States, because the first war in Europe after World War II was the U.S. bombing of Belgrade for 78 days to change borders of a European state. The idea was to break Serbia, to create Kosovo as an enclave, and then to install Bondesteel, which is the largest NATO base in the Balkans, in the Southwest Balkans. So the U.S. started this under Clinton, that we will break the borders, we will illegally bomb another country. We didn't have any UN authority. This was a, quote, NATO mission to do that. Then I know the United States went to war repeatedly, illegally, in what it did in Afghanistan, and then what it did in Iraq, and then what it did in Syria, which was the Obama administration, especially Obama and Hillary Clinton, tasking the CIA to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, and then what it did with NATO illegally bombing Libya to topple Muammar Gaddafi, and then what it did in Kiev in February 2014. I happened to see some of that with my own eyes. The U.S. overthrew Yanukovych together with right-wing Ukrainian military forces. We overthrew a president. And what's interesting, by the way, is we overthrew Yanukovych the day after the European Union representatives had reached an agreement with Yanukovych to have early elections, a government of national unity, and a stand down of both sides. That was
Imagine that, and could we only imagine what this full interview is actually like with Mr. Gregory Sachs and Piers Morgan. You know, the thing is, I want to get to where he's talking though with uh, some of the things that he says here about Israel. Maybe I just need to go in there real quick and hit it with Carlson there, hit his name on this, because this is what we're dealing with now. This is where the real problem is now. Is the gosh, I can put in Tucker's name, I guess. So talking, making sure that nobody sees these. Uh, but there's a clip of where they're speaking together in here, and it's very opening. It's opening of what's being said there. Um, this is the full interview right here. Let me just
hear them talk about their bravery. You don't hear them talk about the kinds of emails that I receive, including one that I just received from somebody who said, Mr. Sachs, they're about to send me off to die. Someone from Ukraine who just found my email publicly, and he said, I'm 48 years old, and they're sending me to the front line.
48 years old?
Yes. So I'm sending a message that I know I'm about to die. And it's true. They send these middle-aged people, disabled people, kids grabbed off the streets, delivery boys off of bicycles grabbed, that NATO would not move 1 inch eastward. This remains, but also into Lebanon and Syria, and borders undefined, but a very expansive view of what Israel's rule should be.
There we go.
That's a quite outlandish and outrageous idea to most of the world, and I would say to most Americans who say, look, just make peace and get on with it. And the Palestinians, who are 8 million people, should have their place, and the Israelis, who are 8 million people, should have their place, and get on with it. But this idea of the clean break is, no, we don't want to get on with it. We want to control everything. And Netanyahu's philosophy, or not philosophy, but his strategy, because it isn't just tactics, it's strategy. The strategy is, we know there'll be a lot of resistance. Our domination over the Palestinian people, apartheid regime, ethnic cleansing when we can get away with it, and so forth. So we're going to face opposition. We will face even militant opposition, Hamas or Hezbollah, and so forth. But Netanyahu pointed out something which is actually correct. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, he says these militants basically don't operate on their own. That's true in general of these groups that we fight. They are state-backed. And it has been true that Hezbollah and Hamas, for example, were backed by Iran for most of this period. And so the idea of Netanyahu is, don't make peace. We want to win. We want all the territory. We don't accept 2 states. We don't accept Palestinian rights and so forth.
And we could go on with this, but the thing is, he's letting you know that Israel's been in behind that, and which it brings up to me also too, the 1973 map. And if you look at that, that's very disturbing because this is the way we see the world shaping up today, just like that Club of Rome map. So, you know, and if you look at the Middle East here, here's one, the 10 regions there. Let me just see if we can get this map up larger. Um, oh, yeah, yeah. Try to anyway. Things you might notice right off. Trump's already been talking about taking Canada and Greenland and making that part of the United States. Then you see that as a region one for the Club of Rome. But look what Israel has control of in the Club of Rome map. They have defeated a lot of these nations already going across. But Egypt, you got Egypt, Libya, all the way over to Morocco. To the west, you have Syria, you have Iraq, even Iran, all those countries there. Now, the Saudis it may not be so much a conquer, they just may go along after they see what's going to happen, the devastation. Russia takes back all the Western Bloc nations that they lost. Now, granted, during this time here, that's part of still the Soviet Union. But at the same time, though, we're going to see this war is going to move on, and Poland as well, and other of these countries here will end up being back under the Soviet Union there. So it's very concerning what I'm watching here. And of course, as I said at the beginning of this, in this breaking news here, is that the United States is going to war with Iran within the next 48 hours. My question is going to be, will Iran end up with this knowledge, end up really going all out to attack Israel at this point here? The answer to that question, I do not know. I would rather see there be peace. I'd rather see that they come to an agreement. I don't want to see Iran continue to launch missiles on Israel. I don't want to see Israel launching them on Iran. And I certainly do not want to see Gaza or the West Bank being totally genocided out by the nation of Israel either. This guy right here on the European Parliament condemned the illegal Israeli attack on Iran, but the mainstream political parties refused when Russia illegally attacked Ukraine. They condemned it when Israel illegally attacks Iran. They refused to do the same. Listen in.
Israel illegally and criminally attacked Iran this weekend. Illegally, because you can't just attack another country. I know Israel's in the habit of doing it, but it's still illegal. Criminal, because a lot of civilians, including children, were killed. And nuclear power plants were deliberately targeted, creating this way the risk of a nuclear catastrophe with mass civilian victims. Now, this is terrible. And so I was saying, like we did when Russia attacked Ukraine, the European Union will condemn this. But what do I see? No. Ursula von der Leyen even insists on the right of Israel to defend itself. But to defend itself what? They're the ones attacking. They're the ones having the nukes. Right. They're the ones threatening to
we are in a procedural point.
No, okay, I agree, but come on. To transform Tehran into Gaza.
Okay.
So we need a vote on this. We cannot just not condemn this and keep on supporting criminal actions that are against international law and against human rights. Thank you. Israel illegally.
God bless him for having the courage. Mark Botenga, MEP there. God bless him for having the courage to stand. I so appreciate that. Anyway, he is the vice president, deputy of the European Parliament there. Just looking at the video. So very, very courageous man. Anyway, Stephen Benoon here with Israeli News Live.